Are you a busy woman who at times struggles with reducing your daily stress? Do you know that you need to slow down but do not know how? If you're looking at reducing your daily stress, you're in the right place. My name is Denise Eckert, and I welcome you to the Calm Your Daily Stress podcast. I just love interviewing guests so they can share their stress-reducing tips and techniques with you. Now, if you find this podcast helpful, please share it with someone who struggles with stress, because lowering our stress will make us a better person, a happier partner, mom, friend, neighbor, etc. And the best part is happiness is contagious. Enjoy this episode. Hi there, it's Denise Eckert from the Relaxation Lounge, and I love coming on here and giving you different ideas to lower the stress in your life. And I love bringing on different guests to give you new and cool ideas. And today I've got Vanessa Hunt, and she's a coaching consultant specializing in a beyond nutrition approach to assist empower women to plan their egg freezing journey creatively. Everyone's path is truly unique. Now, Vanessa, what inspired you to help women with their egg freezing journey?
First of all, I just want to say thanks for having me on, Denise. And I think it's my own journey that inspired me. And being an entrepreneur as well, I realized that it's kind of important because it's sometimes a lone path to learn about this, particularly if you're a woman between the ages of 25 to 35. Egg freezing can really make a difference in your fertility planning, and ultimately, should you decide to have a child. But yeah, I was inspired by my own personal story initially, just getting started so very late in doing it myself. It almost didn't happen. And it touched me so much that I realized I want to dedicate a coaching practice around helping women come around to it, particularly entrepreneurs who have a soft, spot in my heart. Definitely.
Wow. And how does egg freezing lower the stress in women's lives? How does that make a difference in women's lives?
Yeah, it almost goes the other way initially, because egg freezing sometimes can be a little overwhelming, particularly the planning of it. However, the goal, the reason why we want to freeze our eggs is so that we can essentially give ourselves more time to find the right partner, more time to, get yourself to a more ideal situation. So essentially it buys time.
Yeah, and that's really important because a lot of women, it's horrible when you have to make that choice, especially if you're an entrepreneur and your business is doing really well. But you're not at that point yet where you can take that pregnancy leave and, child caring leave, and you want to give your business a few more years, but then you don't want to miss that opportunity to become a mom. So now what advice can you give to the women out there?
Well, I think I would start out by saying, because you're an entrepreneur, because your audience are entrepreneurs, they are used to walking that creative path. And sometimes it takes a little creativity in order to plan your egg freezing journey. So myself, for an example, I'm here in Sofia, Bulgaria at the moment, and I'm completing multiple rounds of egg retrievals. I found it to be the best value and the best situation for me, realizing that not everyone can necessarily travel for egg freezing, but you may not need as many rounds of egg freezing as I needed. So it might be much more cost effective to egg freeze abroad, for example, particularly for entrepreneurs, if you can't access care provider that is, well, what can we say, cost effective within the US.
Yeah. And what is the difference between doing this procedure in the States and doing it where you are now?
Yeah, other than cost and lack of certain foods that I miss very much from being home, The process is essentially the same. It's just a question of researching your clinics thoroughly. Most countries I researched and have visited clinics in Czech Republic and in Bulgaria, in Greece, found was that there is some country accreditation that, basically keeps everyone in line. And to boot, some clinics are preferred by foreigners. So that kind of gives an additional seal of approval, if you will. It's about research as well, researching the right clinic and connecting with the patient care coordinator, feeling confident in their ability. But that goes to say at home too. It's essentially the same process. For entrepreneurs, there are a couple places. HelloLilia.com is a place that offers egg freezing. It's kind of like a one-stop shop price. So that might be a great place to start and explore egg freezing stateside. I don't recommend you run off to the far corners of the world as I did, but as entrepreneurs, we got to do what we got to do.
Now, personally, like, what is the difference in cost? Like, is it half the cost, a third of the cost?
Yeah, well, that largely depends on what your particular insurance plan looks like. For myself, I was quoted around $10,000, but that was a full cycle of IVF. What I found from some of the research that where I've looked at clinics in Denmark, in Ireland, and in Australia, those places were just a little bit higher, but there are places in Portugal, in Greece, and in Czech Republic where a round of egg freezing, one round, is around €2,000. And right now the dollar is really strong. So you could basically say it's a 1-to-1 right now. And medications are around, it's, individual case basis, what you will need. And certainly I'm not in the medical field, but I have researched it so much. Medications are going to be around €1,000 to €1,500, with some exceptions, of course, certainly less. And then there could be some incidental fees like freezing, vitrification costs, and storage costs. Storage costs are interesting to explore and learn about, because that's where they quote unquote get you on the price, right? So some clinics will charge, €150, €300 per year. And some clinics will charge $750 or so. And Hello Lilia, for example, located within the US that I mentioned earlier, they charge about $1,000 a year for storage. So, if you kind of take that out over the time you plan to keep those eggs frozen, that could be a significant cost, and one where the travel there is covered.
Yeah. And now I know for you're talking US based. I mean, I know IVH used to be not free, but it was included in our healthcare system in Canada. I know quite a few years ago they took it out. A lot of times as an entrepreneur, we don't have the health benefits. I know for myself, there's been times in my business where I've paid separately for health benefits. I mean, for anybody who's listening here, there's different ways of saving money. I mean, for instance, for myself, if I was to get some dental work done, I wouldn't be doing it in Canada because it's just so expensive. I'd rather go on a trip and get the work done. And, I feel comfortable with the research I've done there that the clinics are up to par, and, you're getting it done for, a third of the cost, a quarter of the cost. And then you get a little vacation involved as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's something that entrepreneurs in particular should really consider. And I know we're going into the whole medical tourism thing, but I too experimented. I think dental care is kind of like a way to kind of like test your toes in the water for sure. I remember being in Thailand and I got a dental cleaning once. And this was some years ago for like $30. And I said, wow, this is nice. And I actually did some dental stuff here in Sofia, and a cleaning was like a deep clean. I think I paid for a deep clean, at home in the U.S. It was like $500, and I think I paid like 130 here in Sofia. So yeah, I mean, as entrepreneurs, we have to be prepared to be creative. We have to I know sometimes it can be it's a process that makes you nervous because it's like, oh, there's always the question of, can something go wrong? Yes, it's always possible, but acknowledging that exists. I mean, the plane could fall out of the sky. We could get struck by lightning and a shark could eat us. Yes, it's all possible. So yeah, it's about being creative and, we're entrepreneurs, so we got to go where the deal is.
Exactly right.
Well, not always so, but
The deal and the opportunity. There's a little bit of a balance there. It opens up doors on what you're actually looking for. Now, just for this trip and stuff, how long do you go over there for?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because I did not anticipate being here as long as I have been, but I was able to kind of hand off some of my accounts, and so it was pretty easy to do. So I sort of extended my stay, and for the egg freezing pieces because I'm older, and so the whole thing just takes longer for me. And so I really don't want to mention how long I've been here because I think people will be like, well, I don't have time to be gone that long for egg freezing, which, I'm talking about myself and my case and where my body was. And, for reference, I'm 44 and, this is ideally air quotes here, recommended for people 25 to 35. Certainly people older than 35 can freeze their eggs. But yeah, for someone who is in my age bracket, it just takes longer.
Yeah. So. Mother Nature, man.
Mother Nature.
But the thing is, it's not like you're still able to work. You're here on Zoom giving us, this wonderful information. It's not like you're, off and completely isolated from the rest of the world either.
Zoom is marvelous that way. I actually kind of enjoy this schedule because I can wake up, get my work done, and then then North America wakes up. It's kind of nice, and then all my calls and stuff I schedule in the evening. I've kind of grown to really like this schedule, to be honest.
If someone's listening right now and they're interested in freezing their eggs, what do you recommend to be the first step that they take?
Sure. If they're interested, I recommend just going and getting your hormone levels checked. That way, how soon, roughly, you need to make make the decision to freeze your eggs. So I won't go into the specifics of what the numbers mean because, again, I'm not a medical professional, but you can certainly check over these, your hormone panel once taken with your doctor and, get a sense of where you are. So that first snapshot is key.
Great. Okay. So now what happens, for women that don't have partners or if their partners are not on board with what they want to do, what advice can you give them?
Yeah, this is so interesting because I recently met with a dating coach who is here in Sofia, and I got a chance to ask her that question too. So I'm going to respond with what I would say and then what I heard the dating coach say. The dating coach said to, once you are in the initial phases of dating, that you will want to cover this topic. And a question you should probably ask each other is, what happens? What will we do if we can't have children together? So this is so interesting and I think represents this sort of new era of dating if you will, where, people are postponing having children, till later in life. And it's the average age of the first-time mother in 2022, I think US stats, was 30 years old. Whereas like in 1967, it was like 24 and a half. So, women are postponing having children. And I think the relationships need to affect that, reflect that change. And I just want to add to that, because I thought that was a great answer, is that the dialogue needs to happen for women to be able to talk about it, because I am Gen X, and basically, egg freezing was not an available option for a lot of my generation. It's super new, and likely the parents of younger millennials and Gen Z, their parents, it wasn't an available option to them. So the dialogue needs to happen between women. You can't necessarily go, although it'll happen soon, you can't necessarily go to your mom and learn about that aspect of the birds and the bees, particularly if, she never experienced that. So I think there's kind of like a drop in or there's incongruency. Struggling to find my words here. There's an incongruency in, how the information is presented.
And that's the thing, is opening up that dialogue. Like for myself, I'm 10 years older than you, and I don't have any friends that have ever done anything like this. And it's a shame, because the women that, or even myself, I didn't want children. Once I was in school and you're starting your career, and you can't just leave a career all of a sudden once it gets started, take a few years off and come back. And, it really opens up the door for women, which is nice to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, what about for someone who is interested in doing this but can't afford it?
There, I suggest talking to your family doctor. I suggest investigating what options are available, and that could include travel. There are some, I'm sorry, I can only speak about the US and what research I've done. I've only researched one fertility clinic, and it was in like Alberta. And the price actually surprised me, but I asked for
Is that a good surprise or a bad surprise?
Well, I asked for the quote for international patients. So what would an international patient pay? So fingers crossed it would be, more reasonable for Canadian citizens.
Okay.
But if I have kind of like a resource where I talk about basically the price of a coffee. And I know it's kind of tried and, to the extent that it's worn out, that price of that daily Starbucks coffee. But if you look at something like subscriptions, for example, there are ways to kind of reframe your thinking around what you can afford and what you think you can't afford. And I'm not saying that cutting a few subscriptions is going to be the be all end all, but it'll get you started on that right mindset. So it's important. I think it's about mindset. I know everyone's coming from different experiences, different ages, and different places in their business. However, knowing about it, knowledge is key. You can begin to budget for it potentially. Don't be afraid to travel. It's an option. Many people are traveling for people who are interested in freezing their eggs. The women who are going through IVF, they have paved the way for women in terms of, finding the clinics that are good, that are more popular. So it's out there, it's available, it's possible, and it's doable. And it's just, how bad do you want it?
You're such an inspiration, because whoever's listening to this podcast, you're either at an age where if you're younger, you should possibly be thinking about it. And if you're older, like myself, where people my age have children at the age that they should start thinking about it. So really, it's a whole cycle of women, whether you should be talking about it with the younger women, or as a younger woman, you should be talking about it and thinking about it, because it's a very important aspect becoming a mom. And, you don't want to leave things too late.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That would be a phenomenal takeaway if I encourage a mom listening on this podcast to maybe talk to her daughter. I mean, no pressure, right? But just to establish, that we can have a dialogue around this. And that's so beautiful.
It is. Now we're going to be wrapping this up. So what would you like the listeners to walk away with? What is one thought or idea that you'd like them to walk away with?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think I would look at endocrine disruptors. Oh my God, that's so wonky. But yes, I mean, there's a lot of things that mess with our fertility, and certain things that you can, get rid of is such an easy fix in the event that you are thinking of freezing your fertility. Of course, I recommend to work with a nutritionist to get you going, but simple things like, losing the plastic, minimizing your exposure to plastic. I think I would end on that. I know what a nerdy thing to say, watch your exposure to plastic, but it's so important. Huge.
Yeah. And it's all around us as well. It's scary. Now, I understand you have a 30-minute call. Can you just describe that a little bit and tell us about that?
Yeah, I have a 30-minute introductory call just to see where you are in your egg freezing journey, whether you are about to begin or you're just thinking about it. You're not quite sure, and you want to get kind of like a big sister perspective from someone else who's kind of, already paddled this bend in the river. And so I offer that. And I also have tapping, which I think is hugely helpful in dealing with stress in general. But egg freezing can be a little stressful and overwhelming at times. So I like to have all of that together in one little package call. So
awesome. So yes, if you're interested in finding out more, or you have any questions for Vanessa, anywhere you're listening or watching this interview, her information will be here. And feel free and ask her questions. She's doing it. She's done it. She knows a lot about it. So feel free to contact her. Well, thank you so much, Vanessa. Amazing information. It's not something, as you said, my generation dealt with. So it's great to find out, that women nowadays have better options.
Thank you, Denise. It was so great meeting with you and speaking with you about this. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next podcast. Thank you for listening to the Calm Your Daily Stress podcast. Have you ever wondered what your stress personality is? Are you a self-care goddess or a burnout queen? Well, you can find out by taking my free quiz. You just need to go to www.stressquiz.info to find out where you rank. Sending you love and peace, and I'll see you in the next episode.